Mark should be here, but is Mark on the call? He's not sure whether he is. So
no, I don't think Mark's here yet, Sally, but we've got an
okay.
item where he's going to give us an update. So maybe we could start with your update and then hopefully he'll join us in a sec.
Absolutely. So that's
If
good. So
I'll pop the slides up and then perhaps we start
perfect.
with that, if that's all right.
Fantastic. So if anybody doesn't know myself, I'm Sally Andreu. I'm the Skills Hub manager. So I oversee the delivery of the skills and Skills Hub here. And just going to give you a quick update on some of the activity that we're doing, which might be of interest. And hopefully, Mel, if you can see Mark, we'll just put him on hold till I finish this. I'm going to be giving you a quick 10 minutes update on our work. Great. Just Mel's is going to give us some time. Is that okay, Mel? Do you want to go full screen if you can? Are you there? We lost you. Here we go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is
hopefully that's up
that's
now.
great. Thanks, Mel. That's brilliant. Yeah. So we've got Mark's going to give a quick update. Oh, there you are. Mark, I can hand over to you. Good morning. You're on mute, Mark.
Yes, sorry. Hello. Sorry. I apologise. I got caught somewhere else. And yes, apologies. Thank you for starting it, Sally. Yeah, so I don't know what Sally's already said, but I'll keep it brief. We're obviously just running through the agenda here. Yeah, Sally's going to update us with Bootcamps, support for employers and providers, Oxfordshire Apprenticeship Awards, which are coming up as well. I'll give you a little bit about the LSIP, but it is going to be a very small bit about the LSIP. Paul then takes us through the Big Listen, the Ofsted Big Listen, which is obviously has reported recently. Nikki through Special Educational Needs and Disabilities Employability Campaign, and then we'll do any other business towards the end. So it's back to you, Sally, because you're the first person on the agenda.
I am. I don't know if you want to give any updates on the skills board at all.
I was going to do that later on in any other business.
That's fine. Okay, perfect. So you're probably aware, if you've been attending these meetings pretty regularly, is that the great news is for Oxfordshire is that Oxfordshire Skills has got the contract with the Department of Education to deliver skills boot camps. It's a £1.7 million programme, and actually it's all meeting the local skills priority sectors. Again, that's something that Mark's been working on with the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. Just to remind you, if people aren't aware what skills boot camps are, they are flexible, free training programs for adults aged 19 plus, lasting up to 16 weeks. And they're really based on those employer and in-demand skills that are being specified by those particular sectors. Again, all based on the LSIP, the Local Skills Improvement Plan. And really, it's to support those people that are looking to have that opportunity for bite-sized training into a new sector that they've not had before. The funding primarily is for those courses level 3, with some exceptions, level 3 upwards. So it's really giving individuals and employers the opportunity to train local talent in the skills gaps that those employers have identified. And the big thing is those job seekers, those people who have successfully completed the course, will be offered an interview by a local employer. Next slide, please, Mel. Thank you. So it's a bit small, this slide, but we will be sharing them afterwards. So these are the different, we've got 10 different skills boot camps that DfE are funding us to deliver. Data analytics, Amazon Web Services, digital marketing, hospitality, green e-bikes, green e-vehicles, green sustainability skills, green construction, engineering, manufacturing, and health and life sciences. The level, apart from the green e-bikes, is a level 3 to 5, but the e-bikes is level 1 to 3. I think if we did HGV, it's something like level 2, but we haven't got that on the syllabus right now. So as providers, it's been quite a challenge because we've got quite a lot of different programs happening, and of course you've probably heard about the transition as well that we're going through as a LEP. But the great news is that we will be looking to start this procurement process, and I think we're looking at now the end of next week. So I would urge you, everybody that's interested in applying to become a provider for one of these or several of these courses, is to look on the our Skills Hub microsite, and all of the information should be up there with the timelines. We will be doing some webinars for providers, just to kind of showcase a little bit more of what we're looking to achieve, and the work and the deadlines that we have been required to deliver by the Department of Education. I would just urge everybody to obviously keep an eye on the website, and we hopefully by the end of next week, like I say, we should have some further information for you then. So I've just got some, I can see Christopher's got a question. Is that to achieve a full level 3 program within 16 weeks or some of the program? Okay, can I take these questions away, and then I will answer them at the end, I think, if that's okay. Could you confirm the deadline for the applications, as colleges will be closed for Easter holidays for 2 weeks from the 28th of March? I can't as yet, because we're still working through the timeline. So we've got it's going to be open for 4 weeks. That's all I can say for the procurement process. It's going to be a 4-week process, because we're going to have to put the tender up on the Gov website. So that whole process is going to take at least a month. You have a month to respond to those, to the procurement. To achieve a full level 3 program, I mean, it's level 3 within the 16 weeks. I mean, we're going to be looking at and working with providers and employers to try and create the prospectus and the curriculum. If that answers you, Chris, I don't know. We need to kind of just work that through. We'll give you some more information as and when, but we're working really hard to try and get this happening at the same time as the transition. The great news.
It's Sally, sorry to butt in. It's Rebecca Riley from Activate Learning. Hi guys. It could very well be different in Oxfordshire, but Chris, just to give you an idea, we're running them in Berkshire, and it doesn't have to actually be a full qualification. It just needs to be aimed at a level 3 level, because you can't get a whole qualification done in 16 weeks. So it's more the level that you're teaching rather than achieving a full qualification, and they don't have to be, they can be non-accredited. I don't know if that will be the same in Oxfordshire, but that's certainly what we're doing in Berkshire.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, no, I was just interested in that, because I thought delivering a full level 3 might be a stretch within 16 weeks. But the e-vehicles one as well, I mean, is that the syllabus for e-vehicles, or I'm thinking e-vehicles is an overview of electric vehicles rather than charging?
Example content. We've got examples of what the content is, but as providers, the expectation will be that you will go to and work with employers to create the content which meets their needs as jobs. So they will have jobs that they think, okay, we need, and these are the skills that we want, and you create that training in order to fill that gap. Right.
So does that help? To me e-vehicles to me is the technical side of working on electric vehicles, safety precautions, power down, reinstatement, all that stuff. So rather than charging systems.
Yeah, we don't want to be too prescriptive. We want providers to come and say, this is what, from our discussions, this is what we recommend we want to be doing, and this is how. We've got the numbers that we want to be achieving whether that's achievable, but we need to kind of understand from yourselves as to what can be done and what and when, because we've got this funding for 1 year and we really want to kind of see from yourselves as to what that might look like.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Does that help?
No,
So,
I'd be interested in that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so if you go onto our website, we'll have the details of the webinars. We'll do them as kind of 45-minute webinars, which will go over through this with a bit more detail, and then hopefully then we'll give you enough information to then look at applying and which course you'd like to deliver. Any other questions, pop in the chat and I'll do my best. But thanks Rebecca for coming back on that, and I can give you some more information. Next slide, please, Mel. Great. So as you're aware, another part of our delivery is supporting those furthest from the workforce and getting them into work. And part of that is actually through our social contract programme, where we are working with large employers to actually encourage them to unlock their apprenticeship levy that they haven't utilised, that 25%, and actually then we can help grow apprenticeships in Oxfordshire and create new jobs. Brilliant news is that we have actually unlocked over £2,461,000 worth of levy. We've created about, I think it's 151 new apprenticeships, and the programme's still going strong. It was due to finish at the end of March, but through prudent budget management, we've managed to carry it on till the end of December. Part of this programme is also that, and we've got Andrew on the call as well, is that we've been supporting businesses with their apprenticeship completions, because we know that number significantly drops. The people that start apprenticeships don't necessarily finish, and probably half actually don't finish their course. And Andrew's role is here to support those businesses in those completions. And Andrew's been offering webinars to employers through Hawk Training about just being able to give them more support. And Andrew, do you want to quickly mention how the webinars are going?
Yes, thank you, Sally. Absolutely. We've had the first webinar a couple of weeks ago, which was attended by employers who have also signed up for the rest of the series. The first one was around apprentice recruitment. We have our second webinar taking place on the 20th, which is next Wednesday. We've deliberately designed them around being over a lunch and learn, so people still get a little bit of a chance to go and stretch their legs, grab a sandwich or whatever they like to do over lunchtime. But the next one is really getting filled up in terms of numbers. So what I would say, I know that Mel has very kindly sent out emails and reminders to the network, is to really do a call to forward these on to your employers for them to attend the webinars. They're obviously free of charge, they're impartial. We've still got another 4 after next week, and we're taking it from the apprenticeship start all the way through to endpoint assessment. So yeah, please feel free to either reach out to myself or contact Mel to sign up for the webinars.
Fantastic, thank you. And we probably put the webinar link in the chat if just for more information. So Mel, would you mind going to the next slide, please? So again, you'll probably be very aware of our apprenticeship awards. This is the awards where we actually convene the awards through the Skills Hub, but we have businesses and sponsoring a category, and they actually judge and award that category. This is our 8th award, and we had more than ever, more entries than ever. Entries closed on the 19th of February. We've had 85 individual current or recent apprenticeships and 46 employers and 37 providers actually taking part. So thank you if you've taken part on this. It has got bigger and better every year, and this year I don't think it's going to be any different. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to that. We've got the final on the 18th of April. Sorry, Mel, it's not the 18th of April. It's the 18th of May, I think 16th of May, sorry, just kind of taking that out of my head. But it's going to be at Williams F1 again. So hopefully, if you'd like to come and join us, be great. You'll be with us anyway as part of the nomination process, but it's looking really good. Yeah, Lynn, I haven't put details about the Skills Bootcamp webinar yet. We've just got to get the final date for the procurement out, but please keep an eye out at the end of next week. All the information we're hoping will be up then, so just hold tight. Okay, so it's looking like, just going back to the awards, going to be a fantastic evening, and certainly it's a great opportunity to showcase apprenticeships, both from an employer and also an apprentice perspective. So we're really looking forward to that. Mel, do you want to mention any more about the awards?
Yeah, just briefly to say the 18th of April is the date that the finalists will be revealed. So we'll be doing that on social media, so LinkedIn and Twitter mainly. But that's when we'll tell you who the final 3 in each category are. Yeah. So that was that date, and Sally's right. 16th of May is the actual evening.
Fantastic.
So yes,
and please,
thank you.
Thanks, Mel. And please do share on your social media channels as well if you've got an apprentice or an employer that's actually got to the final. It is an amazing achievement because, as you can see, it's getting incredibly competitive. So if they're in the top 3, then they've done really well. So yeah, watch this space. It's going to be an exciting time yet again. Next slide, please. I think that might be me. Yep, I'm going to hand over to Paul.
It's actually going to be me on the from an LSIP point of view, Paul. So hold your fire, and we'll just
will do.
We'll
Thanks,
just check
Mark.
off the LSIP very quickly. It won't be very long. Then we can go into the Ofsted Big Listen. So I'm sure everyone is aware of the local skills improvement plan sort of process that we went through before end of last year, and obviously there was a result came out of that of the plan that was then put forward to government, and the long and the short of it is that the Activate, who we got people on the call from, are heading up this kind of partnership, as it were, of how that LSIP, the result of the LSIP and the funding that came out from the LSIP is then used and spent. So and that is looking at I've just got them up here, the 7 areas of interest, priority sectors, and one of which is manufacturing, then health and life science, hospitality and visitor economy, ICT, haulage and logistics, construction and built environment, and care. So those are the sort of 7 sectors that the LSIP surrounded itself by. And the whole point of it was trying to bring the industry and training providers a little bit closer together and trying to work out where the gaps were in training. I think the jury's out on whether that was effective or not. However, it has given us a vessel within which we can engage with business and engage with industry to try and plug the gaps that exist between what employers want from their training and what they are able to access versus what is available and what we as providers are able to deliver. And there is still, I attended the workshop development meeting for the health and life sciences a couple of weeks ago now, and even within that room there is a definite gap still between what the sector are looking for in terms of training and what we're able to offer at the moment, and what the LSIP and what the sort of the result of the LSIP is coming out as well. So there's still quite a lot of conversations, still quite a lot of discussions to have with industry about what they want from their training and how we can answer that as training providers. I think the thing to encourage for all of us as training providers is that it does give us that vessel in which to talk to companies about ones maybe that you do work with, ones that you don't work with, and they have the meetings sort of coming up over the next few weeks and months where each of those industries will have the Chamber of Commerce is getting each of those industries together in order to try and get all the right people in the room at the same time and have that conversation. So it's well worth getting involved in that in order to try and understand what employers want if you work in one of those sectors, what you're delivering, and then where the gaps are and what you might be able to how you might be able to help to plug those gaps. Things like the skills boot camps and things like that will be things that can come into that as well, as another vessel, as another way of meeting some of those requirements from the employers and from industry. Has anyone got any questions on the LSIP that I can answer now? I think it's been pretty well publicised. I think most people on this call will probably be involved in it in some way, shape or form. So it's a case of just trying to get the most out of it that we can now that it's in that sort of second stage of actual delivery. Cool. Okay, well, moving swiftly on, Paul, we're on to Ofsted's Big Listen.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Mark. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Paul Jones. I'm the Apprenticeship Director at Oxford Professional Education. So we're a relatively small training provider based in North Oxford, and I'm here just to give a bit of a brief overview in relation to the Big Listen, the grandiose title. So Mel, if I could ask you to swap to the next slide, please, without wishing to sound too much like Chris Whitty. So, okay, I'm sure most members on this call, colleagues on this call, will be well aware that Sir Martin Oliver commenced his tenure as HMI Chief Inspector back in January of this year. What was quite encouraging, I think, is the fact that there was an immediate 2-week cessation of all inspections, whilst inspectors themselves undertook a degree of additional mental health awareness training, etc. And obviously the context around that was the tragic incident relating to Ruth Perry in Caversham, etc. It would be churlish of me not to acknowledge that I think Ofsted have recognised that there is a need to perhaps change their approach, etc.
Oh, I think we might have lost Paul. No,
is that everyone? Is that everyone? Or is that just me?
Yeah, I think we. Paul, oh, no, you come back.
You there?
I'm back.
Fantastic.
Am I here?
We just lost you momentarily. Brilliant.
Oh, do apologise. So I don't know quite where I got to there, to be perfectly honest, but just to confirm that I think it would be churlish not to acknowledge that Sir Martin would appear to be very receptive to hearing the views from both the sector, from parents, and indeed from children and people involved in the inspection in some shape or form. So that's very sort of encouraging. It's very, very fluid where we're at the moment, and indeed this slide deck is somewhat already out of date since I sort of cobbled it together briefly last week. So there will be a slight change, and we'll get slightly off-piste in a second from this slide deck. So please do indulge me and forgive me for any sort of like changes as we go along. So the Big Listen, it was launched at the annual, it was launched last Friday, the 8th of March, and Sir Martin gave an initial speech at the annual apprenticeship conference, just outlining what his thoughts are and how we can move forward on this front. So next slide, please, Mel. So in terms of changes to the education inspection framework itself, it's fair to say that Sir Martin wouldn't necessarily be drawn too much on that front at the moment, but I think it's fair to say that it's unlikely that there will be significant changes afoot, particularly in the short term, because I think we have to be mindful of the fact that potentially there could be a change of government not too far down the line potentially. So I think we're unlikely to experience significant changes to the EIF itself in the meantime. But what I think is key, and I would encourage all members on the call to actually complete the survey, is that Sir Martin has sent out a plea to the sector. Please, can we sort of provide feedback, because the only way we can sort of influence and change things is to play an active part in it. I think what is good already is that there is a commitment to greater policy clarification, and the one elements that really sort of stuck out and jump out at me was the fact that previously there hadn't necessarily been a clear written policy in the event of any requirement to pause inspections. So it was down to the individual discretion of the lead inspector. So dare I say, to a certain extent, it depends on how benevolent your lead inspection was in terms of whether or not the inspection could be paused. So it's good we're getting some clarity around that moving forward. Next slide, please, Mel. Okay, and this is where I'm going to go slightly rogue then in 1 second, if you just bear with me. So I do apologise. So it seems as though it may have jumped a couple of slides there, perhaps, but okay. So potential changes. Well, the headline news, which sort of developed and evolved over the weekend, was the fact that potentially reports may be withheld in the event of a minor safeguarding issue having been identified. Of course, minor, hence my stress of that word, is a little bit subjective in terms of what would be defined as being a minor safeguarding issue as such, but it is quite encouraging that perhaps the reports won't necessarily be published until further clarity is sought from the provider in relation to the safeguarding. So that's got to be a positive step. What is interesting is that it's been mooted that safeguarding may in fact become a standalone judgment in itself. Again, I think that's possibly an encouraging move there, really, that it has its own grade in judgments. So similarly, along those lines, the Ofsted website will be updated to not just give the overarching overall grade for the provider, but it will now, moving forward, I believe as of April, list all the component grade elements. So it gives you more of a rounded picture in terms of the performance of that particular provider. So I will sort of update the slides and pass them across to Mel, because there is a link to the big listen, and as I say, I would encourage all parties to complete that if possible. Moving back to the slide in front of you, so in terms of the sector reaction, as you can imagine, it has been a mixed bag thus far, but as I say, I think it's probably encouraging that Ofsted have reached out to us as a collective and sector, so that in itself has got to be a positive, really. The timing is quite pertinent in a way, insofar as Oxford Professional ourselves were subject to a full inspection back last month, and if I were to grade the inspection, I would say a low grade 3 requires improvement, because dare I say, in my own personal opinion, having been the nominee, and this was echoed by our shadow nominee, it felt that there was a degree still of a checkbox exercise being undertaken. Every morning, the Keep in Touch meeting would start by checking on our well-being and welfare, which I suppose was encouraging. However, it then went straight into the nitty-gritty. We need this, 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 and this, and we need it yesterday. So at the moment, I think it's not quite fully as embedded in as we would perhaps wish. So it certainly wasn't a fluffy bunny experience. It still remained incredibly challenging. And as I say, dare I say, it did come across, whether intentionally or unintentionally, as a little bit of a box checking exercise in terms of how are you feeling with the inspection. Yet we do recognise it's stressful. However, it will always be stressful. So, you know, early days, but I think there's still work to be done there from an Ofsted perspective, to be honest. So as I say, I would have to grade it as a low grade to 3 at the moment. More work to be done on that front. So, and I think that probably sort of wraps it up from my perspective. So just happy to take any questions if there are any at this stage. Nope. Okay.
Has anyone else had a recent Ofsted that's on the calls? Cool. No. Okay.
No.
Wait and see who gets the next one. It'd be interesting to see if that if they fall better into that being part of a sort of integral part of the inspection rather than feeling like a tick box. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mark, sorry, and apologies if everybody knows this, but just going back to boot camps, skills boot camps will be Ofstedable, if that's a word, that's my new word. So anybody that undertakes those will be up for Ofsted. We're supporting in Berkshire, we're supporting some of the smaller training providers that don't usually come under Ofsted to support them with what that looks like. So we haven't been through it for skills boot camps yet, but I'll obviously feed back to the group as and when we hear. But I think for any new training providers that are picking up boot camps, Ofsted are coming out quite quickly to have that first engagement. Now, I suspect if you've not done it before, it's going to be around policy and procedure and those types of things, and have you got your safeguarding in place and all of those, but just worth being aware of.
Yeah, really good point. Okay, thanks, Paul. Nikki, send employability campaign.
Brilliant, thanks Mark, and morning everyone. I think I've met most of you on the call before, but if not, I'm Nikki, work within Oxfordshire Skills, and I'm the Careers Hub lead for our Careers Hub, which supports 58 of our secondary, mainstream, special schools and FE colleges across the county with regards to their careers provision. So not so much the delivery of it, but supporting senior leadership team and careers leaders to ensure they've got a really robust careers program that supports young people on their journey through school and out into the workplace. So I'm just going to flag today a bit of a campaign that we've been running around wanting to get more support for our special schools and to support our young people with SEND, and looking on the pathways that are available to them into work. And last year we spent quite a bit of time running some training for our careers leaders within our special schools, and we used an organisation many of you might be aware of called BASE, the British Association of Supported Employment, who ran training for those careers leaders to really help them understand, one, the pathways that are available to the young people that they're working with, but also two, how to best engage employers to support with that as well. Following that, we realised that what we need to do now is talk to employers and make sure employers are on the same page as well. So we ran some training back in January, and we've got the second day of training actually on Thursday of this week, which is to support employers in terms of looking at what those pathways are, to support them also in thinking about how they can offer experiences of the workplace to young people with SEND, how they can support them with encounters within school, but also look at those pathways and look at the recruitment processes potentially they use to get into those pathways, how they engage with those young people, and how they support them once they do start through those initial few weeks to make sure they're into sustainable employment. So that's the context of kind of where we are and what we're trying to do. So as you can see, it's quite a lot of sort of input in terms of that training, and I think actually the one we ran for employers in January was probably some of the best training that I've been to, that we've supported through the Careers Hub for employers, and it was really, really well received. We were blown away with how many different employers wanted to attend. We actually had a waiting list, so it's fantastic to know that there are so many employers engaged in that who are keen to look at actually how can we widen our talent pool, how can we be ensure that we're recruiting young people with SEND into our organisations, how can we be fully inclusive, and are really keen to know what they can do better around that. So, but one of the things we've also done is create some short films. I'm going to show one this morning, and I know Saoirse from Ignite Sports on the call, so should have seen this, and you may have seen it because we did post it on LinkedIn, etc. I'm just going to share with you one of the films that we've created to help employers to see, you know, why this is so beneficial, why it's something they should be looking at, and why it's something they should be supporting. And many of you will be probably aware of Josh already, who was our Apprenticeship of the Year last year with the Oxfordshire Apprenticeship Awards. So we created a film on his story. So just bear with me. I'm going to try and share it and hope that the sound works. So just give me 2 seconds. Hopefully you can see that. Mark, I can only see you. If you can give me a thumbs up,
I can see it, yeah.
You can see it, and shout if you can't hear it, okay? So I'll play it now.
I was first a shy, non-verbal person.
Keep it going, keep it going.
And the teachers tried their best to help me.
So I first met Josh, I think it was back in 2019, at a human library event that took place at his school, Iffley Academy, convened by the Oxfordshire Careers Hub.
When I first spoke to Hannah, I was just quite nervous to speak to her.
He was a shy young man, but I was told in advance that he would be really enthusiastic about sport. So when we recruited Josh onto his level 2 apprenticeship standard initially, we could see there was potential.
First apprenticeship I did was the level 2 community coaching, where you'll be with a lead coach, a more experienced person with you. They put in the confidence in me on how I was doing as a sports coach, so I can now talk to people without knowing them, because at first I just wouldn't speak to them. But now I feel more confident in my abilities.
First of all, he started 2 months later than all of the other guys on the programme, and he actually managed to, at the end, succeed and get a distinction, being the only one in the cohort to get a distinction, which is a massive, massive achievement for him.
And I think that's why the apprenticeship route's been so good for him. 80% on the job, doing it, learning as you do it, not sitting in a classroom. And that's really suited Josh's needs.
So Josh has now moved on to a level 3 teaching assistant apprenticeship,
which is basically in the role of a TA inside a primary school, where you get the experience and get to learn from the TAs around you or the teachers around you.
And most notably, 2 days a week he's back working at his old primary school, St Nicholas, here in Marston, where it's fair to say he struggled years back, but he's progressed so much. He's now in there as a teaching assistant, helping others with additional needs to be the successful versions of themselves that he's become.
Welcome to the 2023 Oxfordshire Apprenticeship Awards.
One of my proudest moments of recent times has been when Josh won the Oxfordshire Apprenticeship Awards 2023.
Our last award of the evening is a really important one because this is the overall apprentice of the year.
And the winner of that award is Joshua.
It was an amazing sort of experience to be told that I won. I really encourage employers to give people who have my sort of background a chance.
So having employees around me with SEND has made me a better line manager, a better leader of the business. It's made me understand people better. It's made me stop and think. It's made me have more clarity of message, be more understanding, more patient. It's made me a nicer and better person because I've wanted to support them.
Working with Josh has helped me develop in multiple ways. I think it's allowed me to maybe recognise what I'm not doing so well within my role. It's helped me recognise when I can maybe be more flexible, more patient.
It's also made me incredibly proud to be an employer whereby we truly are inclusive. One of my biggest achievements is seeing the likes of Josh and others flourish and eventually will fly the nest and have grown into fantastic young people. But also as a business, it's given us opportunities that perhaps before we didn't even know were there. So working with people with SEND has definitely added to the growth of Ignite Sport UK.
Great. So, Saoirse, I don't know if there's anything you just want to add about that at all. Sorry for just putting you on the spot there, but anything you wanted to add about how that has changed things, you know, for Ignite Sport and having Josh as someone who's come through your programme?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even this morning I saw Josh as I was walking into work, and usually it's head down. He wouldn't speak to anybody, but he says good morning first, asks how we are. So I think it just goes to show like how amazing the apprenticeship has been for him. And maybe when we go into the schools where they have SEND children and show Josh as an example and let them know that they can do exactly what he's been doing. So yeah, it's been amazing for us.
Brilliant. Thanks, Saoirse. I suppose I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time this morning just to ask if anyone else, one, has some great examples of where this is working, or two, could look to support us in terms of both either yourselves or certainly the employers that you support, having them thinking about sort of widening the remit of young people that they bring onto their programmes and looking to work with Oxfordshire schools to support those young people with SEND. We're really, really keen to make sure that all our young people across the county are getting equal opportunities to look at what they could do next. So yeah, it was really just a case of this morning just sort of sharing that, getting any thoughts from yourselves and looking at how we can engage going forward. Rebecca, you've got your hand up.
Thanks, Nikki. Yeah, I think it will be really important as we go forward. We've got a curriculum reform coming where BTECs will be going, T-levels will be coming, and more of our young people will need to choose between whether they do a T-level or whether they do an academic programme. Just in terms of Activate Learning for next year, we're seeing a 63% uplift in students completing T-levels from this year to next year. So that's huge. And so we're going to need those employers because otherwise we're not going to be able to take people onto courses that have additional support needs if we can't then get those placements for them. So the more we can do to support employers, encourage employers, and really support our young people to be able to access this is going to be really key as we move forward.
Brilliant, thank you for that input. And I would say the training that we've delivered, the 2-day training that we've delivered, which we are actually Abingdon and Whitney kindly hosting us for the second day on Thursday. We are going to be rerunning that training again for employers, and we will make sure that we get that out to all of you to share with the employers that you work with, so you can make them aware that this support is there to help them think about how they can support these young people. But also, please ask them to directly get into touch with us at the Careers Hub, start working through us to support those schools. We will be, obviously, I'm talking very much about special schools at the moment. We're certainly going to be making a shift into looking at how we support our mainstream schools to also support their young people with SEND, because we know that there is a disparity when you look at examples such as experiences of the workplace, where some of those students won't go out on the experience of the workplace because, very much like you said, Rebecca, the school aren't able to find them a placement. They're concerned about how they will react in that placement. They haven't got the resource to plan and to make sure that the employer's well briefed about that young person before the placement. So there is definitely more work that needs to be done in this space, and we're just really keen to sort of get your input on that and work with you on that going forward as well. And anything you can reshare from us would be greatly appreciated. Anyone else got any stories around any young people with SEND that they've supported through, or any challenges that you see with that yourselves?
I'll just say that I think the more we can do for those employer training, and maybe ones that are slightly shorter as well, because again they're all time poor a lot of the time, because the biggest barrier I think we've found is employers. It's not even a willingness is the wrong word, but nervousness about taking on young people with SEND is still there, and it's not because they don't want to, it's because they've got a job to do outside of that, and etc really. So I think any of that training we can do. I would also say that some of the people that we're working with, we've also worked with Oxfordshire Employment, who have been really good, and they've put in quite a lot of time into coming in and helping employers in some of the, I guess, some sort of employability softer side of having someone on that side of the having someone with those needs on your employment on your team, and also some of the local SEND project officers and things like that have also helped us with a couple of our students as well. So again, there is help out there in the county as well. That again, until I can't remember where I found out about them, but I was linked into them with one of these meetings or one of the other meetings that we had, and they've actually got quite a good support network at the moment that's helped. So again, it doesn't have to just be on your shoulders. There are some other people that we can get involved if you do have people that need that extra level of support in the workplace as well.
And we can send out an introduction to them. They're actually coming to the training on Thursday, Mark.
Fantastic. Okay.
So we can send out various contacts in terms of those who can support you. Absolutely take on board that shorter training. I think the 2 days has proved, it's actually been, like I said, really well attended. I think people have got really immersed in it and looking at their whole practice across from first engaging with young people within school to actually their recruitment process to their onboarding. So it's quite lengthy, but we can maybe chunk it or something and look at
just need the sort of taster session, as it were, if you want to call it that, of what it's going to cover, so that people can decide whether they want to invest the time in the full 2 days or not. I think there's some
that's a really good idea
as well.
No, thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate that. The other thing I just wanted to catch up, is anyone else got anything they wanted to add around that topic? Because I had one more very quick thing I wanted to mention. It was around the provider access legislation. And I know that's obviously something that came into effect over a year ago now, in terms of our schools and schools and colleges having to provide access to young people, to training providers, to learn more, and have 6 of those encounters during that young person's time within school. I know our schools have found it a challenge in terms of being able to always get providers in to talk to students, certainly in the lower year groups in years 8 and 9. I just wondered if there was any feedback from yourselves in terms of how that was going from your perspective in terms of that engagement in schools for them to learn more about the opportunities, and if there's again anything more we can do. We are thinking about sort of late June, early July, we will be running another provider marketplace, which I think many of you probably attended, which we ran back in, that was January last year as well. So that's for our careers leaders to come in. We'll be inviting you all to that so that careers leaders can come in and meet you individually to build their networks, and for you to build your networks and connections as well. But just any sort of top thoughts in terms of how are you getting more schools contacting you given the provider access legislation? Are you finding it a struggle to actually meet all of those requests? Any views on that at all?
I think from I'll chip in. I think from our point of view, yes, we have had more requests, but and we have done slightly more in it because we put more resource to it. But again, I think there's still that, the same as we've discussed in the past, in that the requirement far outstrips the resource that I think we have as training providers to a certain extent. So there is still an issue. There is still a real issue between the pool of people that are available to do that work and the requirement that the legislation has driven to a certain extent. And again, I think we all probably have the schools that we have better and worse relationships with, and it depends on that a lot of the time as to who's asking, if you've done it before, and you kind of get into a rhythm of it as well. So I think the meeting is that when we did that, I can't remember when it was now, in Oxford. I think that was a real positive. I think that was a really good thing, and it was nice to meet all the careers leaders in the same place at the sime time, and make those connections. And we definitely we benefited from that, and I definitely think the careers leads did as well. So I think another one. I'm interested in doing another one of those, because I think that was a very positive, very positive thing to do, and get all those people in the same room at the same time.
That was great feedback. Thank you, Mark. And yeah, I do recognise, that the call on your time, and I think, as I said, the schools are finding it particularly difficult with those year 8 and 9 year groups, because obviously you can maybe go out and support an encounter within a school for year 10 or 11 or 12 and 13, where potentially it's more relevant, but going out to year 8 or 9 can be challenging. So anyone else got any thoughts at all on how that's gone for them, whether they've seen an increase in going out to schools, if they feel that they've just not been able to support, or the challenges around that? Any other thoughts?
Apparently not.
No, apparently not. Okay. Well, we will definitely keep you all updated in terms of the marketplace that we run for the careers leaders, and hopefully get as many of you to come along as possible to that event, and we will confirm, Mel will confirm all those details with you as soon as we've got that all tied down. But no, thank you for your time this morning.
Okay, just this last bit really. As I said at the start, to give you an update on the Oxfordshire Skills Board, it's now a joint meeting actually with the business support subgroup as well. So we've amalgamated 2 aspects that are both working here in Oxfordshire and sitting as groups, in order just to try and bring industry and training a little bit closer together. And those meetings happen. They're a couple of hours, and they're every 3 months, 4 months, something like that. I think we have 4 a year. But the key thing about that, and I think Paul sent out an email recently, is Paul and I both attend those meetings, and we were charged with trying to get an opinion from the people on this call as to what the the barriers were around funding or any sort of regulation things that you want to bring up, because the purpose of that board is to really try and be a bigger voice for Oxfordshire and for any of the training providers that are in the county that are finding aspects of delivery difficult, or aspects of governance or funding or whatever, so really the request from us, and again, if anyone wants to voice any now, it'd be great, but I think it might not come out in a meeting like this, but any issues that you're having with or anything that you have questions about, or that you want support in, it's a really good platform to give us those problems, pass them to either Paul or myself, or via Sally and the team at Oxlep, and we can then raise them at that meeting and get we have counsellors on that meeting, we have the universities, we have employers, big and small employers, so it's a really good place to actually voice those things and actually try and get some move forward really, and that's the whole point, isn't it? It's to try and to make sure we're in the best possible place. Ed?
I suppose one of the things we've been kicking around here, and it'd be interesting to see if colleagues are finding the same, is it's just a volume and variety of opportunities coming through, and it's it's a great problem to have. It's great that there's skills boot camps and Multiply and UK SPF and all these different things coming through, but I think in terms of being geared up to support that, manage that, there's the bidding and the procurement process, but then there's the ongoing project management bit where there's even if we're doing two different projects with one bit of the council and another bit of the council, there's different reporting and different requirements for each of those. So I think if we're going to see a shift towards multiple smaller pots of money that are all different requirements and all different things, it's going to become increasingly challenging for providers to manage that. Especially if they're already tight on resources and funding isn't going up for apprenticeships, it's going to make you maybe less willing to get involved in some of these new initiatives, because you're like, I just can't face another tender, and I can't, we can't manage another little project with different requirements from the last one, I guess.
Yeah, thanks. So so that I think that'd be a good conversation to have as part of the skills board, in that we'll probably have people from the council, I think, sitting on those, so having some group think about how we can make sure that we're not all pulling in different directions in terms of that when it comes to tendering and actually getting the programs up and running. It'd be interesting. Paul?
Thank you. Yes, so just picking up on Ed's comment there, it is kind of the sort of law of unintended consequences, isn't it? The more devolution comes to the fore, the more every area has slightly different nuances, slightly different requirements and expectations, etc. So therefore, ergo, sometimes the bureaucracy can increase exponentially in certain cases. So it is a valid point, and I think, in fairness, it is something that the skills board are very mindful of as well, really. So hopefully there will be a degree of synergy in terms of any sort of associated funding rules wherever practicable and possible. So it is something they are very, very mindful of, but I do very much appreciate the comment. I think it's a fair point you've raised there.
If you wanted to have a look, we had a bit of money to deliver a project for the Office for Students for promoting one of our degree apprenticeship programs, and actually their approach was refreshingly light touch.
Oh wow!
So the procurement was, not a doddle, but it wasn't a pain in the what's it, and actually the monitoring and the reporting on the way through isn't too onerous either. So yeah, some colleagues that work in universities that have seen then some of the stuff that comes through that's SFA funded, or other funding streams, have been a little bit blown away from what they're used to from working with OFS.
Interesting, thank you. Yes.
Did anyone else want to comment on any thoughts about what they might want to raise with the Oxfordshire Skills Board? Or okay, so then the second part of that is really to try and define what you want for the future of these meetings as well, which we kind of always come to this at the end of these meetings, but any direction from you've all given us an hour of your time to come and sit here and look down the camera at us. So the question is, well, in a meeting in however many weeks, however many months time, when we sit down here again, what do we want to be discussing? Is there a piece of information that's coming down the track that we want to get a speaker on, because we've had speakers on things before? Is it just a case of a good opportunity to get everyone in the same room and go through things that are going on in the industry at the moment? I mean, we'd really like your feedback on that, because Sally, Mel, Paul and I have a infrequent email between each other trying to work out what to include in these meetings in the future, and it's just coming from 4 people at the moment, which, you know, we've got 27 on the call, so it's or 22, sorry. So it'd be really interesting to hear from you as to what you want covered in this, what you want the subjects to be, whether you want us to go out and find an expert in a certain area to come and tell us a little bit more about it. We've got for instance, I've got something that I might bring for the next one. We've just had the handbook for the training providers, finance handbook for the training providers, which has set out a whole new level of regulation, and if you're in certain bands, what you are and aren't allowed to do, you know, what you should be doing and what you're not going to be doing, and whether your accounts need to be audited or not, and what is an auditor's opinion. Is that a full audit or is that a partial audit? Now, for you know, for training providers like us, where we just sort of dip into the second band, so the one that's over £1 million, we're going to have to work out whether we need a full audit or whether we can just get away with an auditor giving their opinion, which is what it says in the document. So I'd be interested, and my suggestion would be for the next meeting, we'll go out and try and find someone that can demystify that a little bit and tell us exactly what we need to do. But again, that's just one person out of the 22 sat here that I know that's something that I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about from running my business. So any suggestions now would be fantastic, but I've got a feeling we'll be hit with deadly silence. So if not, you can get in contact with Sally, you can get in contact with Mel or Paul or myself, and just tell us what you want to hear in this, what you want to cover off in the next meeting. Ed?
Anyone who went to the apprenticeship conference might have seen Carl Bentley talking about the SFA audits. They're sort of external auditor that works with the SFA. So we've got them in doing a sort of mock audit with us at the minute. So, you know, that might be the kind of thing. I know it's not a full proper SFA audit that we can say, you know, this is what they asked for. But, you know, if there's any useful stuff that comes out of that, I'm sure we'd be willing to share a little bit.
Yes.
So
that's a good point. So that's the SFA audit. So again, if we want some insight into that, I think that'd be a great thing to have on this as well. Yeah, because we all get the knock on the door in the end. The one I was talking about was actually a full business finance audit, but I think yours is still a valid point. That's another area that we're all sat there trying to work out how the funding rules, and then we don't want to fall foul of them when we get an audit. So yeah, those mock audits are really useful. And any learning that comes from those it would be good to share as well.
And I think also one of the other bits we're working on at the minute is with the council on multiply maths, another part of the kind of skills for life stuff. And we found that really useful because actually there's a network of county councils and providers that are working on that, and actually they get together and just share good practice on that. So if there are a few people in the room that are going to have a look at some of the skills Bootcamps stuff, I think it'd be useful or helpful to find someone who's delivered maybe in one of the other waves, or someone who's, you know, already delivering, that could come and just share some of that stuff that is a little bit about, this is what's worked well, this is what hasn't worked, start with this, don't get too bogged down in that, you know, all the just little tactical bits that stop you going down a rabbit hole with stuff.
Okay,
fantastic. Okay, any other business? Anyone want to bring anything else up, raise anything?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Mark, whether people would like to meet face to face. Appreciate these are easy when they're online, but is it opportunity if we give you plenty of a timeline, perhaps one in autumn where we could ask one of you to host and we could come and have a look at one of your facilities venues and have a tour and then have a meeting? You know, what if there was, obviously we're looking at marketplace event potentially with Nikki and the team, but you know, if there's anywhere that we could come out and get to meet with everybody, would be really good. Mel, I'm going to hand over to you.
Mel's hand went up quick there, so you hosted.
Yeah, she was already on it.
Or on mine. We just to let you know, we had penciled in a meeting for the 15th of October at Oxfordshire Advanced Skills in the morning. I think last time we got together a little while ago, we came up to more up north to Bicester. So we were looking at maybe doing something in the south kind of the county. So we've got that penciled in at the moment. So we do have a date for a face-to-face meeting. And also, as Nikki said earlier, we've got the end of June, which last time for those that came to the meeting, we combined that with a get together as well. So we had a kind of update discussion first and then went into the training provider marketplace. So we've got those two in at the moment, which I can share with everybody instead of as well as an online get together as well, if we feel that's helpful or easier for a speaker to attend, maybe.
Great.
And also, I've just spotted Rachel just popped in an any other business. We've got sort of 10 minutes left. If
sorry, I haven't got.
You would like to, if you'd like to share that, Rachel.
Yeah, hi, and I'll try and be brief because I can talk about this for hours. So it was just a bit of sharing of where we're at around the maths functional skill level 2. So, as I said in my introductions, we are an employer provider. We have approximately 400 apprentices internally on programmes. They're all external to the organisation, so we do recruit them in. Our demographic ranges from 18 up to the age of 66 on our apprenticeship programmes. We've been lobbying the Department for Education through various ways over the last year about ongoing challenges we're finding with the reformed maths functional skill level 2, particularly actually for the more mature learners who are coming back into the world of education, had sat GCSEs or O-levels multiple times in maths, have almost a chronic anxiety towards maths as well, which we work very hard with them to overcome, and then are going into the exam environment and are finding, particularly over the last 12 months, that the awarding body seem to be upping the ante around the questions. We've had learners crying, referred to our occupational health unit, and now actually being withdrawn from the apprenticeship programme and not achieving a qualification purely because of the maths. We've made representations several times now over the last year to the Department for Education. The work we're doing is totally separate to the work of the AELP that coincidentally we also know have been producing similar research and similar evidence base to suggest that the reformed functional skills maths is potentially not fit for purpose. And I guess I just wanted to put it out there. I don't know if others are experiencing this through working with your employers, whether you've got, particularly around the level 2, learners withdrawing, not passing maths, and whether this is widespread across Oxfordshire, and whether or not anybody else has made representations on this issue. So that was kind of what I wanted to say, and if anybody shares that or not, really.
We're definitely having the same issues with our apprentices, and I'm not sure if anybody, like Ed said, was at the annual apprenticeship conference last week, but it was a massive topic, and it's definitely something that they're looking at changing and hopefully improving.
That's interesting. Thank you for that. Did they make any commitment there? Because we're all lobbying in various ways and it's coming back that it's with the policy team. So was there any acceptance that it needs a total reform at all? Or
it was a lot of talk, to be honest. There was nothing kind of put in definite, but I think where they had so many people, it was one of the main topics.
Right.
I think they've got no choice but to act on it, but I think it's just to watch this space at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Ed?
Well, yeah, I suppose from a couple of points of view, we've had to become a little bit more robust with initial assessments. We changed the software we used from BKSB to Sentry, And whereas before, if people were a little bit borderline, we might have, you know, taken a chance or taken an educated guess. Now, in some instances, we're talking to people about working on their maths before they start the apprenticeship, because we just know it's too much if they're going to try and do something like level 3 gas or level 3 engineering, and they still need their, you know, functional skills. It's just too much. So yeah, definitely recognise that. And one of the things, if we get, we'll find out some point this month if we are successful for the year 3 of Multiply. One of the things we've been talking to the Oxford University's NHS Hospital Trust about is support through that for their apprentices that are doing functional skills. So it can't duplicate what they're learning on the functional skills. It can't, but it can help them with confidence. It can help them with anxiety. Some of them have got English as a second language, which is another challenge. So there's stuff that's maths adjacent or life skills math stuff that we can wrap around what they're doing for functional skills. It just helps to give them a little bit more confidence. So yeah, if we get the year 3 stuff, maybe we can have a chat about that, Rachel.
Yeah, and what we've argued back, it's not that we don't think maths is important, we really do. What we've argued, and we've given lots of evidence base to the Department for Education. We had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago. The issue is not the somebody proving that they can use maths, it's the way it's tested. And we actually proved evidence that the current some awarding bodies with their functional skills questions, it's currently harder than GCSE questions. So you're actually putting people who have failed often multiple times in that exam environment in school, college, putting them back in that, but actually making it more difficult. So we proved evidence of that. And then also extra challenges, like this year, we know that GCSE students are allowed to take their formulas in with them, meant to be the final year of that, whereas actually the functional skills candidates, you know, your formulas for your shape theme, you have to recall them all. And then not only that, but as we argued to them too, I told you I can go on for hours about this. We argued a couple of weeks ago that for functional skills, the questions are, you know, randomised in a way by the awarding body, i.e. you're not actually tested on 100% of the curriculum. So for the shape theme, where there are multiple formulas to memorise for area, area of circle, circumference, and can't even name them all myself, you actually have to try and recall 100 or be prepared to recall 100% of them, because you're not going to be tested on them all, if that makes sense. So it's actually even worse. So we've, and this is the 3rd time we've gone to them in the last year on this. And each time we've got evidence from other police forces as well and other emergency services. So, but each time they want to almost siphon it off a little bit, and they only want to talk about us. And then I get the same response saying it's with the policy team. And it's just getting a bit, you know, I'm happy to talk about it because it's getting a bit frustrating, because all the while it's with the policy team, we have actually learners that their social mobility is being, you know, quashed. They cannot move up or get recognition because they're being put back in an exam environment, but yet they can use maths in the role. So we are lobbying for a total reform of the assessment methodology. You know, that's, you know, and I'm sure that's not going to happen, but that's what we're trying hard to do. And then just secondly, just to put this out there as well, we have a case with them at the minute about indirect discrimination for the funding rules. Because as it stands, if you don't have an ECH plan or the legacy, and you're over the age of 25 and it wasn't diagnosed when you were under the age of 25, you cannot be exempt from functional skills. I know that there's a pilot going on where they've got, I don't know how many providers it is it 10 or 20, where they're accepting alternative forms of evidence. But if you're not part of that pilot, okay, and you have a SEND issue, you have SEND, and you are a mature learner, you cannot be exempt from the functional skills. And we have a case of a learner who's over that age at the minute, who is neurodivergent, but never received the ECH plan or the LDA at through school or college, can't now get one because of his age. We asked the ESFA to consider the case for him against the funding rules, and they've said no, you know, he has to just keep resitting and resitting and resitting, or be removed. And the issue we've got with this learner is that no matter any of the reasonable adjustments that are allowed under the awarding body do not provide the solution for his neurodivergent condition. So I just want to put that on the record as well, because we are waiting for a legal response back on that about how it's proportionate that they continue to have this policy that's in place, which indirectly discriminates on based on the protected characteristic of age and disability. So I'm happy to keep you all in the loop as to the outcome of that.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, I think I'm sure. Yeah, you won't be the only person on the school have those learners that fit into most of the categories you probably just said. So yeah.
And I think from our perspective, Rachel, and thank you for sharing that. You know, given that our strategic priorities, I said at the start of the meeting, was to ensure that everybody could take part in the workforce and actually become economically active. That's a significant issue. So I'd really like to pick this up, and perhaps, you know, we could schedule some time for you at the next meeting to really talk about the issue, and then hopefully if there's any outcomes, but certainly please keep me updated because I'd like to know, and then I'll certainly have a chat with our government kind of department we talk to on a regular basis and see if we can make them aware of this issue as well, because I don't know if anybody else, I was listening to Radio 4 this morning, and I think there's like 9 million people that are economically inactive, and they're probably wondering why and what they could be doing towards that, and if this sounds like it's a major gap that's happening, so that'd be really good. But thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for listening.
Anyone else? Any other business before we wrap up? Great. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you. Thanks,
Mel, if you can send around the next dates, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll circulate the links that have been shared, the slides, the recording, and the proposed dates for later in the year. So yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Please join the LinkedIn group. But thank you.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks everyone. Cheers. Bye.